In the kingdom of Windfort, rumors spread like wildfire about a cursed princess whose face was so unsightly, she never appeared in public without thick veils. But fate had a different story to tell, one that would shake a kingdom to its very foundations. In the great hall of Windfort Castle, Prince Edward stood at the altar, awaiting his arranged marriage to Princess Eleanor of Venor. The marriage was a strategic alliance between kingdoms, but rumors about his mysterious bride troubled him. Eleanor was said to be unusually plain, always appearing in public behind a thick veil that completely obscured her features. As Edward waited, dressed in his formal attire, he contemplated his duty to the kingdom, knowing this marriage was necessary regardless of his bride's appearance. The castle doors opened, and Princess Eleanor entered in a flowing white gown, her face hidden behind an ornate veil. Her posture was proud and graceful, showing no signs of the timidity many expected. As she walked down the aisle, Edward noticed something intriguing about her presence. She carried herself with unmistakable dignity and confidence, despite the whispers that followed her. When the moment came for Eleanor to remove her veil, the entire hall held its breath. The Archbishop's words echoed through the silent chamber, requesting the bride to reveal herself to her prince and kingdom. Eleanor's hands moved to her veil with deliberate grace, and as she lifted it away, a collective gasp filled the room. Instead of the plain or unsightly woman everyone expected, there stood a woman of striking beauty, not merely in features, but in the strength and intelligence that shone in her eyes. Her gaze met Edward's directly, carrying neither shame nor fear, but rather an almost challenging gleam. Prince Edward found himself speechless, his carefully maintained composure slipping for the first time in years. He had prepared himself for duty, for sacrifice, but not for this, not for someone who seemed to carry as many mysteries as she did beauty. As they completed their vows, Edward realized that his carefully ordered world had been upended. This marriage, which he had approached as a mere political alliance, had suddenly become something far more intriguing and unpredictable. The whispers in the hall had transformed from pity to wonder, but Edward could sense that beneath Eleanor's beauty lay deeper secrets still to be revealed. In the days that followed the wedding, Windfort Castle buzzed with a different kind of energy. Princess Eleanor proved herself to be far more than just a beautiful mystery. She was sharp-minded and spoke with wisdom that stunned even the most seasoned advisors. In council meetings, where most royal wives remained silent, Eleanor's voice rang clear and strong, offering insights that even Edward could not ignore. Yet beneath the surface of their growing partnership, shadows lurked. Whispers in the castle corridors changed from amazement at her beauty to suspicion of her sudden rise to influence. The court that had once pitied the ugly princess now feared the power she wielded. Edward found himself caught between admiration and unease, watching as his wife commanded attention in ways he never expected. One night, as moonlight filtered through their chamber windows, Eleanor finally broke her silence about the weight she carried. "There is something you must know," she whispered, her voice heavy with secrets long kept. "The veil was not meant to hide ugliness, Edward. It was meant to hide power, a power that terrifies my own kingdom." She spoke of an ancient prophecy from Venor, one that claimed a princess would be born who would either bring salvation or destruction to both kingdoms. Her parents, fearing the prophecy, had hidden her away, hoping that marriage to a foreign prince might avert the dark fate that hung over their lands. Edward listened, his heart torn between his growing feelings for Eleanor and the magnitude of what she revealed. The woman he had married was not just a princess. She was the subject of a prophecy that could shake both their kingdoms to their foundations. As Eleanor's tears fell silently in the moonlight, Edward made a choice that would alter their fate. Instead of recoiling from her truth, he took her hand, promising that whatever power or prophecy she carried, they would face it together. But fate had other plans. As dawn broke the next morning, the first signs of the ancient prophecy began to manifest, and the true test of their bond was about to begin. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, bringing with them an omen that would force both Edward and Eleanor to confront the power that had been hidden behind the veil all along. The dark mist crept into Windfort like a living nightmare, first touching the distant villages before slithering towards the castle walls. Crops withered at its touch, and fear spread faster than the fog itself. In the great hall, Edward stood with his advisors when a guard burst in, face pale with terror. "Your Highness, something dark has emerged in the village. They say it is the curse of Venor taking form." Eleanor, standing beside her husband, felt the weight of generations of prophecy pressing down upon her shoulders. As they rode to the village together, the sight that greeted them was more terrifying than any battlefield Edward had faced. A thick, unnatural fog covered everything, draining life from anything it touched. The villagers huddled in fear, their eyes accusing as they looked upon their foreign princess. That night, while Edward slept, Eleanor was drawn to the castle's ancient library by whispers that seemed to come from within her own mind. Among dusty tomes and forgotten scrolls, she discovered an ancient book bearing the symbols of Venor. Its pages revealed the true nature of the prophecy. It was not just about destruction or salvation, but about a choice that only she could make. Edward found her there, surrounded by ancient texts and trembling with the weight of her discovery. "The curse is not what everyone thinks," she explained, her voice steady despite her fear. "It is not a simple prophecy of doom, it is a test. A choice I must make that will determine the fate of both our kingdoms." As she spoke these words, the dark mist began seeping through the castle walls, as if responding to the truth finally being spoken aloud. Looking into Edward's eyes, Eleanor saw not fear or judgment, but unwavering trust. Yet even as they stood together, the darkness growing around them made one thing clear: the time for the prophesied choice was approaching, and no amount of love or courage could prevent the trial that lay ahead. The true test of their bond, and of Eleanor's strength, was about to begin. The castle of Winfort stood shrouded in darkness as the mist closed in around them, turning day into endless night. Inside the great hall, nobles and servants alike huddled together, their eyes fixed on Eleanor, some in fear, others in desperate hope. The ancient prophecy that had haunted her since birth was finally coming to its climax. From the depths of the unnatural fog emerged a hooded figure, its presence commanding absolute silence. Its voice echoed through the hall like ice cracking, offering Eleanor the choice that had been foretold: choose destruction, sacrifice this kingdom, and free Venor from its ancient burden. Or choose salvation, but bear the curse yourself for all eternity, becoming something other than human. Eleanor stood tall, her hand clasped in Edward's, feeling the strength of their bond. The months since their wedding had transformed their arranged marriage into something neither had expected, a partnership forged in trust and understanding. Looking into Edward's eyes one last time, she found the courage to make a choice no prophecy had predicted. "I choose salvation," she declared, her voice ringing through the hall, "but on my own terms. I will not lose myself to this curse, nor will I sacrifice those I have come to love. If there is darkness to be faced, I will face it as I am." The hooded figure recoiled as if struck, for in all the centuries of waiting, no one had dared to challenge the terms of the prophecy itself. Power surged through the hall as Eleanor's defiance shattered the ancient magic. The dark mist began to dissipate, not from any sacrifice or transformation, but from the simple power of a choice made in love rather than fear. As the first rays of sunlight broke through the castle windows, Edward and Eleanor stood together, neither victorious nor cursed, but simply themselves, proof that sometimes the greatest magic lies not in fulfilling prophecies, but in having the courage to forge one's own path. And so the tale of the veiled princess became legend, not for the curse she carried or the beauty she hid, but for the strength she found to defy destiny itself. The kingdoms of Winfort and Venor would remember for generations that true power lies not in ancient prophecies, but in the courage to remain true to oneself, even in the face of darkness.